Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to Link Up Leaders, your direct link to leaders in supply chain and e-commerce. My name is Lisa Kinski. I'm your producer and co-host, and joined as always by Francois Jeffrey. Francois, how are you today, dear?
I am great. How are you?
Good. Have you gotten all of your Christmas shopping done?
Yeah. Surprisingly, everything was on Amazon.
Is that surprising?
The few things that we're doing, well, surprising that I could still order it today and it still get there tomorrow, sort of thing.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So that was nice. A lot of since I split families, a lot of it is just white elephant, so it makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to shop for everyone. You just shop for the kids and like a nice bigger gift for someone. So yeah, it's pretty easy. What about you? How's your holiday shopping going?
I last minute ordered an item,
Okay.
2 items, and I was told that they would be here yesterday, and then I got an update from Amazon that they will be here today. So
Okay.
I'm like, fingers crossed that they're actually here today, because I need them so I can wrap them. But I started early. I ordered my first Christmas gift in October. So because I'm part of this podcast and understand what's going on.
It's almost like you know something about supply chain.
It's
or
like I might know a thing or two. It only took a year and a half to catch on. But no, I started ordering super early on. But it's been, I don't know. I have so many more people to buy for this year, since there's now so many kids that I have to buy for, that it's like, hey, friends that are moms and dads, here's your one small thing. Here's this basket of stuff for your child. It's like, it's just been very different shopping. But it's been good. I think I'm pretty much done. And if I'm not done, well, it'll be a New Year's gift for whoever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super interested to see what's going to happen to all of the gifts that are sitting at the ports right now and that are very seasonal, or maybe not gifts, but seasonal items that are at the ports that just couldn't make it in time. Because what I'm seeing for like the port of Long Beach and LA and Oakland and all of them, it's still taking them, 5 to 6 weeks to get some of those cleared. Whether it's the vessel waiting there, whether it's the container in the port yard, whether it's truckers just not being able to pick them up, or warehouses not being able to get them out. It's absolutely nuts. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Did we lose you? I think we might have lost you. It's okay. We have a great guest today that is also going to be able to talk a little bit, or a lot of it, about the supply chain. And he has a ton of experience, former Marine as well. Let's welcome Eric. Hey, Eric, how are you doing today? Oh, you're muted. You're unmuted now.
All right.
Welcome to the pod. How are you doing? Yeah, we hear you now.
I am well. How are you?
Good. Doing well. The joys of going live and being able to have technical difficulties.
Yep. It's always something. I used to, I'd log in like 20 minutes early, and now I log in like 2 days early because I assume something's going to happen. So
Yeah. Do we have you back, Lisa?
I think so. Hello.
Okay.
You're right. I caught the tail end of whatever you were saying. It is always something, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, I could hear and see nothing. Where are we?
Just welcoming Eric to the show, and we're rounding out a little bit about how shitty the ports are, and how we're going to see a lot of seasonal items probably be stuck there. And I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen to them, basically, for the next few weeks and going into 2022.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But a not so seamless transition. Eric, welcome to the show. Having quite a Monday, Tuesday over here. So today we have with us Eric Martindale. He is the founder and president of Elite Commerce Group. And Eric, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and about your company?
Well, company first, I guess. Elite Commerce Group is a full spectrum digital marketplace management company. So we do a little bit of everything on, our focus is digital marketplaces like Amazon, Walmart.com. And we do pretty much everything or anything that's required to sell on those platforms, from digital ad management, PPC, to fulfillment, to custom integrations on, smaller platforms. So we do pretty much, if it needs to be done to sell on one of the marketplaces, we do it.
Very cool. Very cool. And then what about yourself personally? You said company first. Now let's hear about Eric.
Okay. So I spent most of my adult life in the Marines. I got out. Actually, before I got out, I got a sort of a unicorn assignment teaching military science at UPenn and Villanova. So I started my last tour. I spent 4 years doing that. And I started selling on, my goodness, initially it was eBay, it was flipping products, and that sort of grew legs. I was just doing it as a side hustle. By the time I got out, I think my last year revenue just doing it on the side was, like $200,000, and I just went nuts from there. So 2017 until now, we have scaled, I would say considerably. We've got 21 people on the team right now, and we've got 2 brands, and then manage a number of other brands.
Gotcha. Very cool. And take a moment to say thank you for your service. I saw the USMC in the background there. So for the topic for today, like obviously you said you guys do all the things for all the e-commerce businesses. But when I was looking through your site, I saw a really, really interesting blog article that you guys had written kind of about the metaverse and how that's going to impact e-commerce. So kind of thought that could lead today's discussion in maybe just the changing technologies. I don't know. What are your thoughts for like the future of ecom, maybe like 5 years from now and 10 years from now in terms of the tech that's going to maybe come out? I don't know. Cause I don't understand the metaverse. I know I'm a millennial and I should. But to me, it means like you're going to have like a VR headset on and be virtually walking through the mall buying things. Like that's what I understand it to be. I could be totally wrong. And please tell me if I am.
I don't think you're wrong. I think there's a lot here. I'm not sure exactly where to start, but you hit on something where you said I'm a millennial and I should understand.
Mm-hmm.
I would let you off the hook because I think Zillennials is the generation that really, really understands intuitively. So I would look at, and we use the metaverse got a lot of attention with Facebook's rebranding.
Right.
Before that, we were looking a lot at the blockchain and Web 3.0. And so with that announcement in, I think it was November, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
That term got a lot of attention. And so we're sort of focusing on that in terms of getting our brand's attention. But there's a lot. So if you want to talk about just the metaverse, it is defined by augmented reality and virtual reality, or characterized by it, but it's built on the blockchain, and that's what makes it special. So, or that's what makes it very unique. And I guess, I would say, I think we're looking at a generational shift. I don't think we're going to see everything move to the metaverse or everything, instantly move to Web 3.0. But I think there's something big happening here. And I think, Gen Z is going to be the one to make the metaverse really big.
Yeah. What is Web 3.0?
Web 3.0 is it's kind of a decentralized version of the internet. So, and again, defined by or built on the blockchain. So if you were to look at Web 1.0 as simple websites that present information, kind of a one-way street. So if you were to go back to like maybe 1999 or the year 2000, a website that you could find back then, you're just getting information presented to you. And then if we move forward to Web 2.0, an example might be more social media, where information is going back and forth. You're pulling information, you're pushing information, and sort of the dark side of that is your information is being bought and sold across the internet. So you don't really own it. You have big companies that really own all the information. Things are presented to you. And there's sort of there are memes about it. You'll be on Yahoo, and something you were just searching on, maybe Yahoo email, and something you're searching on Google or Amazon gets presented to you in Yahoo, and that's because your information is being bought and sold, at alarmingly fast pace. So Web 3.0 then is the decentralization of the internet, where the user is kind of back in the driver's seat. And it all goes back to the blockchain. So if you look at all the benefits of cryptocurrency, you can apply those now to the internet. All of the things that you got from crypto, because it's built on the blockchain, because it exists on the blockchain, all those now apply to the internet, at least in theory.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, I also don't understand the blockchain, and that is not for other people's lack of trying. Like Francois has tried to explain it to me, Jack has tried to explain it to me, and my dad has tried ad nauseum to explain it to me. And I just don't get it, but I'm a very like in front of you tangible person. I don't know. I'm not about, I'm still very keep your money under your mattress kind of person.
Can I try it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, try it. Let's go.
So if you look at the blockchain as a series of connected ledgers, that's really what it is, computer ledgers. So if you go back to, say, the year 1800, and you were to walk into a bank and you see that great big book from the movies where every transaction is written in a ledger, you can imagine that book can be stolen, it can be destroyed, it can be burned, or whatever. If you fast forward 200 years, a ledger might look like a computer. And even if it's connected to the internet, it's generally a single point that might connect to other points, or it might connect to the internet, and it usually does. The blockchain, if you look at that ledger as a node, there are lots of nodes. And so if I enter something, and we'll use the bank example, if I enter something on that node at the bank, it is communicated across multiple ledgers, it's verified, and then it's recorded on all those ledgers. So now that transaction really can't be destroyed anymore, because it exists along all of those different ledgers, and all of those different ledgers are connected. So now it creates a permanence. There's a verification process. So it's not like things can't be counterfeited, but that counterfeit can be traced back to a person or a node. So there's a verification process that's very strong. And then there's a permanence to all of those transactions, because even if one node is destroyed, all the other ones exist and they're all connected. Okay. Francois, was it all along the right?
Yeah, I think that it makes sense. I mean, I've heard it explained in many different ways. That's a very technical way, I think, of getting the explanation. I think that does hit the nail on the head, though. I mean, it's essentially just tying together multiple transactions also, and being able to process them a lot quicker. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, Lisa, does that sort of...
No, it definitely makes more sense to me, because what I had kind of not been told, but what I had interpreted before was like somebody else had to verify that what you said you were doing. I don't know. It seemed like putting too much trust in random other people on the internet with a lot of money. Because if you hear, obviously you were just speaking earlier about how like blockchain isn't exclusive to crypto. But that's how everybody talks about it. So to me, I'm like, I don't trust people with my money, like randos, certainly not. But it definitely makes more sense. And kind of in that vein of crypto, and to kind of get on the topic of today with e-com and technology, what do you think is going to be kind of the trajectory of smaller e-commerce retailers accepting cryptocurrency?
That's a good question. Well, I think you're seeing it with bigger retailers. So I can tell you, we accept it on our website, but we're kind of looking forward. Not a e-commerce group, but a brand website. I mean, I think Overstock.com accepts crypto. I believe Whole Foods accepts crypto. Etsy. There's some other major ones. In terms of the smaller ones, I'm not sure. I think it's hit or miss. But you can imagine the benefit of not just the benefits of the blockchain, but now you're tying into a world where there's a lot of passion for cryptocurrency right now. There's a lot of passion for the blockchain. I don't think the blockchain is going away. I think it's a new technology, and we come back to the verification process. I think it's I think it's much safer than it might seem, but I think the blockchain is here to stay. And so if you're looking forward to the future, I think it's good to position. And if you want to tie into that world of enthusiasm for cryptocurrency, that is a way to do it. So, you can think at the tactical level, if you're running Facebook ads and everybody has seen an increase in ACOS and a decrease in ROI, almost everybody over the last year on Instagram and Facebook, there's a new set of keywords now you can advertise for. So, I mean, that's tactical. It's not necessarily a compelling reason, but if you believe that cryptocurrency is not going away in some way, shape, or form, and you think the blockchain is not going away, it's probably enough reason to start positioning, if that makes sense, for a smaller retailer.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because then they would have to structure their supply chain in a way to where they could have access to that capital, right? I mean, if your supplier, for example, doesn't take Bitcoin, or if your freight forwarders don't take Bitcoin, you would have to have a series of conversions over to whatever currency they want. And then I guess you can still hold the Bitcoin while, as a portion of your profits, but then it's like, how do you report that? I guess, how complex is this? Well, for your business that you're currently running and accepting Bitcoin, how does that integrate into your supply chain?
I would say it doesn't directly. So the way we're doing it now, we don't get a lot of sales through cryptocurrency. In fact, we've only been doing it for a short time, but for us, we're sort of leaving it in there as an investment, sort of. I mean, it's a small investment, but we're just we're kind of letting it sit with the thought that cryptocurrency is going to grow in popularity over time. If you were at the point where you're getting a lot of it, I agree with you 100%. I think there is some complexity there, and you have to figure out a system like everything else. There's a lot of volatility in cryptocurrency, a ton of it. So if you'd have to build in the transaction fees, I would say that if you're doing a lot of business in cryptocurrency, it probably makes sense to constantly cash it out and not let it sit there. And then if you do, you have to build the transaction fees into your margins. So it's definitely one of those things where I think in a lot of cases in e-commerce, you have to step out, or you have to step off the cliff and then build the parachute. But I think this is one of those cases where as long as you don't start too fast, too much too quickly, I think you can see how it behaves. You can see how it impacts the transaction. You can figure out how to connect it to your website, all of that stuff, while there's not a ton of commerce going, there's not a ton of commerce using cryptocurrency yet. So I think it's all that complexity is a good reason to start now, rather than trying to figure it out when you're at a time where there are a lot more transactions. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that it absolutely makes sense. Yesterday we were on Ryan Kramer's 200th episode of Crossover Commerce, and Paul Barron was talking about this certain bar, right? This level of complexity, which just means that not everyone is going to try to join in when there is that level of complexity. A lot of people try to go for the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest thing to do, which is the status quo, right? That's what everyone is doing. I guess getting ahead of the curve, if you do see this as a long-term strategy, is smart. I mean, you could take the smaller hits, but you could also take the smaller gains, and you just have a leg up on the rest of the competition if it does start to migrate that way. And if it doesn't, then you could always go back to the status quo and figure something else out. Right. So no, that absolutely makes sense. Now, when tying that into Lisa's vision of the future of going around this mall and shopping these I don't know what they're going to end up calling it. Let's call it electronic widgets or something. How do you see this tying into e-commerce? I mean, I think I have my vision of it, but what do you see happening? Is it just another Sims game that we're going to be living in, basically?
Well, I don't plan to. So, but it's not really. I always say I don't love the idea of the metaverse. Just to sort of, I want to sneak that in there.
Sure.
But I would, if one of my team were to say I don't like the metaverse, I don't want to invest, I don't want to invest any effort into it, I would say, what does what you think have to do with it? So I would apply that to myself. I don't necessarily love it. I don't love the idea of it. I just see that it's happening right now. So to go back to your question, I think, Lisa, you were talking about walking through an actual real mall with a headset on.
Right? No, I was thinking more so like from home. You like have this headset, like an Oculus or something like that, and then you maybe use one of these widgets, like what Francois was saying. Like if I need to go to Macy's and get something, instead of going onto my computer, I'm actually like doing it kind of like Call of Duty is the only thing that comes to mind where like you can actually like pick stuff up and like kind of get a feel, air quotes for anybody listening, for like the size of the product and like actually like flip it around and open it, if it's something like that. I mean, so from home, in-store shopping experience.
No, I think I think that's definitely a big part of what's envisioned for the metaverse. I'm going to tackle this way.
Okay.
If we looked at the explosion in smaller brands over the last decade, most of us would say that it was. I'm like the last year of Gen X, so I'm not as technically a non-millennial. I would say that millennials were a big reason for that because they embrace certain technologies. So like social media, Instagram has been huge for small brands. Facebook has been huge for small brands. Amazon, millennials embraced that and went nuts. And when you looked at the big brands that really lost out to those small brands, they're run by baby boomers. So they looked at Instagram and they said, I'm not going to sell anything there. And then they said things like, why would I sell on Instagram? It's all millennials and millennials don't have any money. Well, look at millennials now. I mean, millennials have lots of money, lots of, disposable income. So if we were to take a step forward, millennials generally I don't think understand the metaverse, or don't like it. And will, say things like, well, I'd rather, and personally I'd rather sit across the table with a glass of wine or a beer and talk to somebody than talking to somebody's avatar. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
But if you look at Gen Z, they don't see it that way. They spend a lot of time in the metaverse. And if you look at how popular Roblox has become,
oh my gosh,
and some of the other, what are some of the other games?
Minecraft. Roblox,
some of those, a lot of those people that left the workforce during COVID, young people, and never came back, that's where they are. That's where they're spending their time. And if you can start to, unpack this and talk about numbers, there are concerts in those places where millions of people show up and watch concerts. There's millions of dollars of commerce that is going on right now in places like that. And then there are others. There are more non-game metaverse applications like Decentraland and Sandbox. People are spending a lot of money. They're literally spending tens of thousands of dollars on real estate plots so that they can trade them in the future or build stores as the technology develops. And there is already a ton of commerce. People are literally going into those games or applications and spending a lot of money right now. So now if we're to take a step back and we're look at those baby boomers, I bet most of them would have said, you know what, I really wished when I was running McCormick, I'm just going to use them as an example. I really wish I had embraced Instagram, 10 years ago. Well, I don't want the brands that we manage to have to look back in 10 years and say, I missed this. There was all kinds of commerce happening in the metaverse, and we didn't embrace it because we didn't like it. So I think the commerce is happening right now. It's not usually, most of it is not physical goods, and we can get more specific later, but most of it's not physical right now. Physical goods, there are a couple of other types of transactions that are more popular, but I think physical goods, there is some, and I think that's going to grow.
What are you referring to as the non-physical good? Because all that we hear about is like the delays at the ports, and Amazon doesn't really have 2-day shipping anymore, and like where's my toilet paper? Like all you hear about is the physical
Toilet.
goods.
Yeah.
Toilet paper.
So in the metaverse, a lot of the I would say a lot of the activity is one of two things. It's gaming, of course, or it's building an avatar and building out this avatar, which again, I think personally, I don't love that, but people are spending money on it. So how are they spending money? They're let me kind of back up a minute. Everybody knows NFTs, right? Everybody's heard of NFTs.
Sure.
Right.
An NFT is it's a token. It's a digital token that represents ownership of a thing. So pretty much everything that's bought in the metaverse right now is bought by way of an NFT. This token has a contract behind it, and the contract says exactly what the NFT, what thing it represents, what ownership is being transferred. So if you look at what's being sold right now, it is things connected to, a lot of it is things connected to gaming, or that avatar that this person has built in a virtual reality world. So it might look like Nike skins, or Nike shoe skins. That's literally a thing. People will pay for Nike skins to put over their shoes. They'll pay for, but fun fact here, Dolce & Gabbana, the most expensive suit they ever sold, was sold in the metaverse for $1 million. So it surprises most of us because we don't hang out there. We don't realize what's happening, but their big brands are moving very swiftly into the metaverse. Nike, Dolce & Gabbana, Gap, Taco Bell, they're basically selling, most of what they're selling is either, to go back to your question, is either something that enhances their avatar or enhances their character in their game, or it's some kind of like VIP access, backstage passes for these virtual concerts, things like that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you definitely answered the question. I mean, now it leads me to like, for the ecom discussion. I mean, obviously, if you're creating a personal avatar, you want to have like different attributes. I can only liken it to like my Bitmoji. So like, what I wear in Bitmoji, and hair color, eye color, clothes, whatever. But for a business, what are some of the things that they're going to have to consider in the metaverse? Because it feels like everything's already covered, right? Like you have your branding, you have your social media presence, you have your brand, you have, your logo and your colors and your voice and your website. I mean, what else are they going to need?
It's such an interesting question. I don't think there's an easy answer and then there's a harder answer. I think the easy answer is if you
Okay, am I frozen again, or is it?
No.
Okay. Oh no.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you again. Your video is still frozen, but you're
it?
coming back. Okay, perfect.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, so to go back to your question, I think if you have, there are some easy sort of applications or tie-ins. There are clothing brands like Prada is another one that are selling in the metaverse right now, or have announced plans to sell in the metaverse. So if you have a clothing brand or a fashion brand or a watch brand or a jewelry brand, I'd be paying attention right now to what's happening. I'd be reading up on it, figuring out what's happening in that space. If you sell physical goods, this is the way I choose to look at it. I personally still have never purchased anything off of Instagram or Facebook, and it still surprises me that people do, or that they link through to websites and buy. But we advertise there, and that's because people are there. And so if you look at the metaverse as a place where there are hundreds of millions of active users, hundreds of millions across the world, people are there. And so if people are there, I think you might make the extension, and I'm choosing to, that there are two things that a brand owner with a physical good needs to start thinking about. One is putting your brand in front of people, just advertising, like we do on Facebook and Instagram. And the next is getting ready for those malls that you mentioned, because they are coming. There are startups. Boson Protocol is one of them that has purchased digital land in Decentraland, and they have built a what I would call a mall, and they have plans to sell physical goods in that mall. So you're not going to find them there now, but that's where they're going. They really want to disrupt the digital marketplace industry. They want to disrupt the Amazons and Walmart.coms by building a mall and, again, putting it where people are. So you have those Zillennials, hundreds of millions across the world, that are hanging out there, and they're walking around with these avatars, and they're investing, and they're putting on the Nike skins and the Gap shirts on their avatars. And now it makes sense to me, at least, that and they're already spending money. They already have crypto wallets. They're spending money there. It makes sense to me that when they walk in a mall, they're not just going to buy a hat for their avatar, but now they can see other items next to that hat that they can purchase.
Well, and that's such a big topic, I think, today, especially in the furniture world, right? It's you go to any Value City, any Bob's Furniture, and it's so hard to find inventory in stock. And you feel like, if you're about to make this investment of thousands of dollars into a sofa, you want to go look at it, you want to feel it, you want to sit in it. Is it very plush? Does it recline enough? Is it electric? Can I put my two cups that I usually? There's so many parts of the furniture buying experience I feel like this can help solve at the same time. And I just see this shifting from stores needing to provide all of this experience to just doing it all through an Oculus, let's say, and maybe not being able to feel it exactly, but being able to virtually push into it and see how much it pushes in. I don't know. It's fascinating because everyone that you're talking about that's buying these Nike skins, for example, the next thing is, they're probably gonna, go off to college, or they're gonna go off and have their own place, and they're gonna have to buy furniture. They're gonna have to, buy lamps and everything that you would typically go to a store to see, they can now see online. That's mind blowing. That's something that you would never really expect a large purchasing decision to be able to be made that way. It's opening up completely new. You're opening up new ideas into my head about how crazy this can actually get. Now, are they currently, displaying any of these physical products, or did they just buy the real estate to be able to display physical products in the future?
I was unable to find any. So I actually, I have a couple of accounts where I do not, I can see where this is going to go. The rumor mill starts here, but I have a couple of accounts because we're trying to figure this out in this company. And so I was following Boson Protocol for quite a while. And when they launched on December 13th. I've gone in a couple of times into their space since then, and they are selling, they are selling items, but I was unable to find any physical items. But if you go back to their website, that's their play. That's their ultimate play. And I think it would make sense that you would go and sort of monetize your new space by selling what is already selling, and then figure out how to build in the rest. That's my guess. And also, you brought up complexity before. We're looking into building and designing NFTs, and it's very complicated. There are so many moving parts and pieces that I can imagine they haven't figured everything out yet. So where you're seeing physical goods in the metaverse right now is generally where they're tied to a non-physical good. So there are some of those skins that you would buy for an avatar. You'll purchase this NFT if you remember that token that represents your ownership, and then you'll get the skin for your avatar or your character in your game, and then that thing will show up in the mail. The physical thing will show up as well. So you'll get a hoodie for your character, and then a hoodie will show up in the mail. So there is some physical. There are some physical goods being traded. They just don't seem to me yet to be the primary function of the purchase. They seem to be more, I guess you would call that auxiliary or supplementary to the main purchase.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know. It seems like such a waste of money to me to spend on dressing up an avatar in something, but I don't know. That's just me.
I think it's pretty common. I mean, I'm just thinking, I play, I like to game, for example, and people are buying, $20 Call of Duty skins. Kids are spending 40, 50 bucks on Fortnite V-Bucks to be able to buy skins and things like that. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily for us right now, but I think it is for, like you said, the Gen Zers that have been brought up this way and are naturally going to be the next in line to start making those larger purchases. It's just sort of tailoring some of their purchasing habits and their buying decisions to be able to do this. I think it's absolutely genius. I don't see, I guess my next question, and when it comes to complexity, would be like, how would you properly represent your product virtually through the metaverse? And another question, even after that, it's what are the limits to entry? It's like, can anyone, let's say in Europe, in France, can they get into a piece of the metaverse here in the US? So like, can they be pushing their brand out to me with little to no barriers? Today we have the supply chain barriers, right? We have the actual fact that they're 6-7 hours ahead. But in a virtual space, it seems like you could be anywhere, anytime. Do you have any insights into that?
Some, and I would say that we don't have this completely figured out. We're really trying to figure out some of it. We build an NFT. It exists on OpenSea, and that's just us experimenting. In terms of how to do this, I think some of it would depend on what you're trying to do and what your brand represents. There are marketplaces, so you could, in theory, build an NFT on OpenSea, and you could list it on a marketplace, an NFT marketplace on Decentraland. Now, where that gets tricky is nobody, say you're selling, I'm looking around, books. I've got books on the wall. If you're selling books, I don't think anybody is right now is shopping for books in the marketplace on Decentraland. I just don't think they're going to sell. I don't think they're going to get in front of people. Again, I think you'd have to drive your own traffic, just like we're used to in e-commerce. So technically you could do it. Building an NFT and then building the smart contract that goes with that NFT is complicated. So there are companies, there's a company called I think it's called Real Products, and they are building NFTs for real products. That's what they're doing right now. They've got a lot of customers. They're not really, it's almost like they're positioning. So a lot of those physical products, they're building their NFTs and they're selling their NFTs. You can sell your NFT however you want, but they're not really in a market on the metaverse. So they're more or less selling to their customer base. So how do you get that done? I think we're not completely, I don't think we're even close to completely there. I don't think you have the traffic right now for physical products. I think this is the point where if we look ahead and we see this as a generational shift or as the next new thing, this is where we start to get ahead of it. We start paying attention. We start following those companies like the two I mentioned, and we see what they're doing. We figure out when are they going to start launching physical products, and how do I get in? Lots of questions in there. Can you, if you're in France, can you list in the metaverse something for sale and sell it here in the U.S.? Yes, to my knowledge, you can. It's blockchain. You can pretty much enter the blockchain from wherever you want. So, yeah, I don't know if a lot of very
A lot of pieces
very complex situation. Yeah. So it's not no easy answer there. It's just, I think this is where we start to unravel it and figure it out before all of that real estate is taken up by the big brands, because we're watching them move right now in a big way.
Have you guys seen the movie WALL-E?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Robot.
Yeah. You know, when they're on the spaceship and they're all just like fat and floating around on these little things because they can't walk, and they have a screen in front of their face, and that's how they interact with the world. That's what the metaverse feels like. And it scares me, frankly, because I'm such a, like, again, I'm a very tangible person. I'm very like, I sit across the table and have a cup of coffee or something, you know. That's what the metaverse feels like to me. So it kind of freaks me out. I get that it can be like, as far, you know, from an e-commerce perspective, a very like, I'll say it, very COVID friendly like shopping experience. If it is going to be, you know, for physical goods, I don't know. It's just wild to me. This just seems crazy.
I have to tell you, we're on the same page there. And I know, like, Francois, you said you play video games. There's a very responsible way to do this. Mm-hmm. It's just that I foresee a lot of people not being responsible. I think it's like everything else, where clearly you can be very successful and drink wine once a week, but you don't want to drink wine all day, every day. And when you look, I mean, anything is like that. And when you look at the metaverse, I absolutely see a lot of problem there. I see people spending all of their time in there and not doing anything else, and investing way too much in an avatar. And I would liken it to when people say, why would you spend all this time and effort and money on an avatar? I would say, yeah, it's almost like spending all that time and effort and money on a bunch of likes or thumbs up on an Instagram post. You know, people do it now. That's a form of an avatar, really. It's like this fake life. We look at this person that's constantly posting pictures of themselves in exotic places, and then you find out, well, they only went once, once a year, and they took 1,000 pictures, and they live in a little tiny apartment, and they're posting those pictures all year round. And I see the metaverse as a potentially, for some people, a worse version of that tendency. But again, you know, in e-commerce, where do you sell your products? Or in any kind of commerce, where do you sell your products? Where people are. So I take my hesitation, and I have to table it for a minute and say, if people are going to spend that much time there, and they are spending money there, I want to sell my product, I probably ought to have my product in front of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's just a 3D version, essentially, of Instagram, right? Anything that you could do on Instagram sounds like you could do in the metaverse, and they're just making it have a little bit more texture. And if you could wear the goggles, and maybe you can, feel like it's more of a first person instead of the screen that you're staring at. It's terrifying, but it's fascinating at the same time. Is this something that they have any sort of timeline on in regards to how quickly they plan for this thing to move?
I think it depends on, who you're referring to. So there's so many organizations that are positioning for this right now. Facebook or Meta being one of them. Mm-hmm. And it seems like everybody has their own timelines. So if you were to look at Facebook, you could probably figure out when they're timing certain things. But the metaverse exists now. It's just not it's not yet a single concept or a single world where everything is tied together. And I know there are a lot of companies that are saying at some point you will log in once, you will put in your ocular and you'll be able to transit the entire thing once. It's not that way now. If you were to go into the sandbox, you have to log in separately from Roblox, from Decentraland, from everything else. But I know there's, at least in concept, the idea that at some point you will go in, you will enter once and be able to transit, work from home, exploration, socialization, social media, e-commerce, gaming, and pretty much everything else that happens online. When does that happen? I don't know. I really think it happens in pieces.
It would kind of depend on adoption, right? Like on when.
I think so.
When people are ready to start using that kind of thing. Which, as you were saying, the Zennials and Gen Zers. Which, thinking about it, are we technically Zennials, Francois? Because we're like the end of the millennial. Like we're the second to last year.
I'll go with millennial. It's just
I always stick with millennial too. But I think we might technically be in the Zennial territory. But
well, if you think about it, the adoption of even computers and us sitting here today doing this all virtually in the past 20 years has been a wild thing, right? I mean, when we were growing up, the concept of computers and using, them for typing up papers instead of just browsing and surfing the web and going on. I think we've adopted it a lot quicker than we think. And that's why I was asking if they do have maybe an accelerated timeline ready for this, where they say, hey, we think in 5 years, this is going to be where everyone is going to be getting their social media and where everyone's going to be interacting and having a virtual beer together. And I think it could be absolutely crazy in the next 5-10 years. There's no reason that it can't be. Especially as the Gen Zers do start to grow into having money and selling NFTs are just one more way for them to get money. And there's all these new ways on TikTok and it's crazy, right? It's just, I feel like they skipped our generation with it.
I was gonna say, whenever we talk about stuff like this, like I feel like a grandma that like already is way out of touch. And I'm like, what's going, like my nephew, he's like, I want Robux for Christmas. I'm like, what does that mean? What are you talking about? I'm like, no, you're not, I'm not giving you that. No, I'm sorry. I refuse. Like,
I'm getting you Mancala and you're going to have fun.
Dude, I love that game. Oh, we would have fun. I'm going to buy that now.
That's kind of how it works, though. I think, I was talking to somebody recently and they said, well, I think most people are going to opt out of this. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, most people opted out of the iPhone the first year. And what I don't know if it's necessarily that that more and more people of this exact generation opt in. I just think people age out. Technology moves very quickly, and there's still people with flip phones, but most of them are 70. Yeah. So I think at some point, those of us that want to opt out, we just age out at the same time. And the younger generation that's grown up with this stuff, and they got an ocular for their 12th birthday, they're the ones that are going to be, doing the commerce in the metaverse for the most part.
And so for those with physical goods, we've touched on it, I think, a little bit. Number one is really getting their brand out there, right? Brand awareness is that's a big reason you're even using Instagram and any form of social media is to get your brand out there. Aside from that, is there anything that smaller brands or scale ups should be doing to prepare for the metaverse and really to just be involved or testing the water? We also talked about crypto. We talked about learning more about blockchain, but in the metaverse specifically, is there anything else that they can do to prepare? Is there anything you're doing to prepare?
Yeah, we're doing a lot, because I feel like we have a responsibility for the brands, and I'm going to take this in reverse. We have a responsibility to the brands that we manage. So we have a software program that we use to manage ads. So we'll bring a brand in, we'll put them on that platform. But what we don't want to do is put them on something now that becomes a legacy, and we're not moving forward, and we're not evolving for the brand. So we're looking at a lot of things. We're looking at AI. We're looking at we have to lean forward into technology because it's moving very quickly, and we don't want we don't want our brands to be the ones that are left behind. So we're probably doing a little bit more, a little bit faster than maybe we have to. But if I was a brand owner, I would say there are probably three things that I would be doing right now. I would be paying attention to what is happening in the metaverse. There are highly funded tech startups that are investing in commerce in the metaverse, like Boson Protocol. There are I think it's really important to know what's happening. And I'll tell you what, when that company launches their ability to sell physical products, and they're going to basically, their idea is they're going to streamline it for brands. So you'll be able to go to them and create an NFT on their platform in theory and sell in the metaverse. But I think paying attention and reading up on what's happening is probably step number one, so that this doesn't, when I found out that, Travis Scott and Ariana Grande and Snoop Dogg and, all of these celebrities were performing concerts with millions of people in the audience on the metaverse like 2 years ago, I was shocked. So I think reading up and understanding what's happening in that space is step number one, super important. Number two, both Web 3.0 and the metaverse are built on the blockchain. So I would say the first step in, and there's really very little harm, I think, in tying into the blockchain would be setting up a crypto wallet account for your business. I think that is, whatever happens with cryptocurrency, I really feel strongly the blockchain is not going away. There's so many benefits to it, whether we like it or not, that I don't think it's going away. I think it'll look fundamentally different in 5 years. I think the blockchain is going to look way different. I think there are going to be a lot of surprises. It's not going to be as great as most people think, but I do think that setting up a Coinbase account and understanding how all of that works is a small step in the right direction, so that when these things happen, when this first physical products mall is active somewhere in the metaverse, we're already denominated by crypto and we can already, link an account and sell there. It just takes one complicated step out of the way. And kind of a side benefit of, setting up a coin wallet account for your business is it kind of forces you to sort of understand cryptocurrency and blockchain a little bit, because it's complicated. It's different. It's not like setting up a bank account. So I'd say that's step number two. And then step number three would be, I think for the brands where it makes sense, is to start using augmented reality on your websites. And Francois, you brought up a really interesting point. I purchased an at-home bar set, like a bar, a big piece of furniture off of Amazon. And I was looking for a long time and I just could not, I knew where I wanted it and I couldn't figure out what I wanted. And I found one on Amazon and I used they had that, you guys ever use that augmented reality feature?
I use it all the time.
I've never used it, but I don't usually buy big stuff like that.
Well, I don't either. I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get this right. And I was scrolling through, I found it. I found the augmented reality feature. I set it exactly where I wanted it. And I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I want. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's anecdotal. It doesn't prove anything, but in my mind, that made the purchase. I would not have bought that thing if I couldn't place it and see what it looked like. I think that if you have a website with anything like that, home decor, kitchen, fashion, anything like that, most websites have plugins that you can use where you can use those features. So I think where it makes sense is to start looking at what plugins or features or apps your e-commerce site already has in terms of virtual or augmented reality and start tying those in if it makes sense.
Well, this has been a really interesting conversation that has flown by. And I hate to kind of cut it off at the knees a little bit, but we are at the end of our time. But we do want to give you an opportunity to talk about Elite Commerce Group real quick, and maybe let folks know where they can find more information about you, or also what is kind of like the best size business to work with you guys? Is there like a sweet spot of either revenue or anything like that?
We have an ideal customer profile, and we usually it makes the most sense for us to work with brands that have a revenue somewhere between 1 and 10 million. We've in total sales. We've gone outside of that, but we generally we don't want to work with a brand just because they can pay us something. We want to work with a brand where we know we can do them some good, and we're not going to do something that they can't afford or that's harmful for them. So we found that's kind of our sweet spot. We've gone with some smaller, some larger, but that seems to work the best. And we look for brands that have some brick and mortar sales. And the reason we do that is supply chain is, we alluded to it. It's very complex and can be very difficult. And usually if a brand is in brick and mortar, they've figured that out. They've figured out the capital equation. So we generally look for those two things. But we'll talk to anybody. You can reach me at eric@elitecommercegroup.com. I tend to have 1 or 2 hour conversations sometimes with a brand owner that I know we won't be working with anytime soon, just because I love that stuff. So hit me up on email, and we'll talk.
You and Francois are very similar in that way. And for everybody tuning in, oh my goodness, sorry. For everybody tuning in is www.elitecommercegroup.com. And I totally missed this comment that we had from Ryan Kramer. Oh, it just came in. Thank goodness. Francois and Lisa, when are we going to start doing podcasts in the metaverse? Ryan, that's a good question, man. That's a damn good question. Maybe for the 300th of Crossover Commerce Spectacular, we'll do that.
Exactly.
I want in, guys.
We'll keep you posted for sure. Well, Eric, thank you so much for your time today. This has been super, super interesting. And again, if you guys have any questions for Eric, please reach out to him. But thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And for everybody who's tuned in today, if you liked what you heard, please give us a thumbs up, comment with your thoughts, share with your friends, subscribe to the show, turn on that notifications bell on YouTube, and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Turn on automatic downloads too. That way you never miss a conversation with leaders in supply chain and e-commerce like Eric Martindale. And we're recording this on December 21st. We're going to be out on Friday. No more episodes this week. So Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah. And Happy New Year.
And no, we have another one for the new year.
Okay.
Yes.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, friends.
Happy holidays.
All right, guys. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.